Therefore, please keep that in mind. It's difficult for me to project my voice. So try to work with me. That's number one. Number two is please, whoever can help me arrange a microphone for Sunday. I certainly cannot give the share again without a microphone. That's number two. And the third thing is whoever finds the person that took the microphone, before he kills him, bring him to me. Shkach. And don't bring him to Yossi first. First bring him to me, and then we'll let Yossi kill him. Okay. So I have one topic that I see that I didn't speak about yet. Before we start the Sugya of Shivrei Kalim, thank you. Shkach. Thank you very much. I see I have one topic that I didn't speak about yet. Before Shivrei Kalim, which I realize I'm not gonna speak about yet because I'm not yet the Olam is not yet equipped and educated enough to understand what the issue is. I'll just talk about the general topic, which is snow, and the question is if snow is muksa. Snow muksa or not? What's the shaila if snow is muksa? So there's a Gemara in Erev that discusses about water, and that water is not considered a noilad. That water is in the cloud, and since water is in the cloud, so it's not considered a noilad. The shaila is what about snow? Is snow considered something that's in the cloud? That's a bit of a shaila. It seems to be that the metzias of snow is that it does become formed on its way down out of the cloud, interestingly enough, and therefore it would be potentially a noilad issue, which I prefer not to go into. The topic that I want to show, what I'm not going to talk about, is the topic of snow in general. Once it's landed, let's say even Erev Shabbos. When you think about snow Erev Shabbos is no different than sand. It's no different than dirt. It's no different than rocks. It's no different than pebbles. And that's why snow, we would have liked to have believed that snow is going to be considered muksa if it landed on Erev Shabbos and was not miyuchad. If you aren't miyachad the snow would be muksa. This I saw that Rabbi Badner asked for Moshe Feinstein. Rabbi Badner in the 12th parak in Ha'ar Yud, he asked for Moshe, and Moshe said that snow is muksa. If snow is landed on Erev Shabbos, then the snow is muksa, because like we would imagine that's, nobody uses the snow. And Elamai, what are you going to say? You're going to say that you can make out of the snow, you can make snowmen and snow people and all types of snow creatures. So first of all, out of sand, you could do the same thing. So what's the difference between sand and Elamai? They have the kasha on sand. So Elamai, you have to say that first of all, you're not allowed to make these things on Shabbos. You're not allowed to make snowmen on Shabbos. And you're also not allowed to make the sand castles on Shabbos. You're not allowed to dig. You're not allowed to do all these things. So therefore, Kamir, that which it's aimed for is for Isser. And second of all, nobody was miyachid it. So therefore, l'chayra, snow, we would have believed that snow is muksa. That's just one. If it fell on Erev Shabbos, as it's falling on Shabbos, it's probably not much different. The problem here, why I can't go into it so much right now, it seems to be this Gemara not like this. Because Gemara says in Shabbos Daf Nun Aleph, the Gemara talks about the Sugya of Noilad. The Gemara says, "Ein merasking shelig b'Shabbos." You're not allowed to crush up snow on Shabbos, but you're allowed to take snow and put it into your cup, so long as it just melts memela. So it seems like you are allowed to take snow. Elamai. So what's it talking about? It's talking about that he was miyachid the snow. It's a very, very big esteem. It's a very big steamus advarim to say that he was miyachid the snow, and nobody knows this. He has to somebody over there, and one of the poskim of the history of time, since from the time of Rashi all the way until today, somebody should have said that it's talking about snow, that he was miyachid before Shabbos. It could be. It's not upgefragt. It definitely is time beer. I saw in a lot of the svarim, they bring down that Rav Yashiv said snow is not muksa. They say snow is not muksa. They bring down from Rav Chaim Kanievsky that snow is not muksa. Right? And they asked Rav Chaim, how could you say snow is not muksa? And they started explaining to him the Metzias of how snow is formed in the cloud in Noilad. And he said, Ayin Gemara, Daf Nun Aleph Shabbos. What's the Gemara Nun Aleph Shabbos? About meraskin snow. So yeah, we have to work this out. It's something that I think that Kafi the Chlolim that we saw, snow is muksa. And whether it fell on Shabbos, whether it fell on Erev Shabbos, wasn't Oymer or Miyuchad for usage, right? But something is very different. I could hear even a different mechilik that maybe Erev Shabbos is worse because it already fell on the ground and now it's dirt for all intents and purposes. If you weren't miyachid, it's for sure dirt. But if it fell on Shabbos, so since I guess as it's falling, so then just like rain, you could theoretically use it. I could hear chilukim. I could hear that in the times of Chazal, there was much more common to shep vasa, to shep snow, and to take them into buckets and to use them, and that was their water supply, and maybe that's why it was oimed for usage. By us, it's really not oimed for usage. But I'd rather wait till we get to Noilad, or at least to a snowy day, to try to convey more what exactly is the din of snow. But it's not so clear to me. I must tell you, it's not so clear to me. It seems to be that if it fell on Erev Shabbos, I would think for sure it's muksa. If it fell on Shabbos itself, there's reason to believe it's not muksa, because I guess you didn't lahedja makatzit from your das. And once it falls, it is oimid for drinking. It is, again, you might not drink it, but it might tell you in our Metzias today that people don't ever drink snow and they never scoop snow, et cetera, et cetera. So this is something which needs a little bit more of a beer, so we'll leave it. What were the shilas? What? Not. Right. But it could be water is something that, since water, it's so common for a person to use. So it's not makatzit das from water, b'chlal. Maybe water gets like an oichel, but it's a shem. But again, on Shabbos, the difference on Shabbos and before Shabbos, when snow's on the ground, why should snow on the ground be any different than dirt? Why should it be different than dirt? Sorry? Again, so that could be then they did use snow, we don't, right? What? They'll take snow from the outside. Mm-hmm. I'm saying in Seagate or what? Not just Seagate. What? All right. Look, Maisa, I'm not voich about snow, and I decided not to talk about snow until we can talk about snow in the more. Okay. All right, so let's start. Let's start. Okay. So sorry. I would imagine that rain in a puddle is quite possibly muksa, because since it's dirt and we are mekatzet from it by us, we look at it like dirt. I would imagine that anything we look at like dirt would mistama fall into the category of muksa. That's what I imagine. Sorry? Water in a well, not necessarily at all. No, why would that be? It's not. No. Right. Because they used to use the water from the well, right? We don't use the water from a puddle. If the water falls in a puddle, it's dirt. Nobody would drink that water, and therefore it's dirt. It could be if there's animals around. There are things that could change. If there's animals around and the animals eat the water, so it could be it's different. It could be it's oimid for food, etc. All that stuff we have to talk about. But again, like I said, I think the item's not yet enough. Okay, so now the Shulchan Aruch, I broke down today the rules. You have here like this. You have Sivav. You have here Sivav. You have Siv Zayin. You have Siv Yud Beis, Yud Gimel. These are all sugyas of Shifrei Kalim. And then you have in between, what do I mean? Sivav Zayin talks about Kalim. It talks about when you have a broken Kalim and what's the din of broken Kalim. Kalim that break on Shabbos, Kalim that break before Shabbos. What's their status on Shabbos? That's Sivav Zayin. Yud Beis, Yud Gimel talks about the sugyas of clothing that have ripped before Shabbos, after Shabbos, what's there? Before Shabbos, on Shabbos, what's there? Then Shivrei Kalim, Rip Begadim, what's the status of that? Then you get to the sugyas of Chestes. That's Chestes Yud. That's a different type of kli. That's a kli that broke off, but it's like a door that broke off. It's a door attached to the karka in Sif Yud. It's a door that's attached to a small kli in Sif Yud, in Sif Tas, and therefore that might be more of a shame kli. The shame kli still remain. And then you have Yud Aleph, what we spoke about is a broken machet. And then finally you have Tezayin, which is all about certain kalim that we're afraid that even though they might have a usage at this point, even when they broke, but we're afraid that you're going to have a Yetzirah to go and put it back together. You'll be over on Boina. And then Chazal made a special gzeira, Shemi Yitaka, gzeira, that you might come and put it back together. Now, I today, I'm going to get to some cases, but let me just give you klolim. I want you today to try and see the bekiyas of these sifim. So I'm going to give you a little bit of sikum of what comes out from Sivav Zayin, and then we'll see maybe Zayin Yud Beis, and then Yud Aleph Tesvav, and what comes out. There's klolim to know what are the dinim of broken kalim. And this is what you'll see. Really, it's the cases of Chazal sometimes are a bit more abstract and obscure and complicated. But the ideas that come out are very simple, very, very simple. For example, there's really three major rules that come out over here to know what's the din of a kli that breaks on Shabbos. And then once it'll be a broken kli, so then it no longer has a shame kli, and shall be a muktzah machmas kufay. We have to see if that's before Shabbos, if it's after, if it's during Shabbos. But the basic klalim are like this. There's a klal in Sivav, the klal number one, we'll call it, is that if you have a kli that breaks, so the first thing that we need to know is, does it do anything for us? Is it do any type of malacha? That's the first klal, and that's what you're going to get when you learn Sivav. A keli shenishber, even on Shabbos, it's going to be mutter. Ubelvad that it's roy lemalacha. So rule number one is nothing starts unless this kli that broke is roy from malacha. If the kli that broke is not roy from malacha, so then nothing starts. We have to have that it's roy from malacha. Again, the examples and faces and names and everything we'll see in a moment. But that's rule number one. In order for something to be mutter on Shabbos and not muksa, it's got to be that once it broke, it's roy from malacha. If it's not roy from malacha, so then it's a non-starter. It's a muksa machmas gufay because now it broke. It's a little piece of you have a piece of a fork that broke off. A prong of a fork. It's not roy for malacha. We have to see. Maybe it's roy for some other malacha. Which malacha is it's roy for? We have to see. But let's say you have a piece of the handle of the fork. It's not roy for anything. It's not roy for anything. So then that piece becomes muksa. That's the dogma. That's one rule. Rule number two you get from Sif Zayin and from Sif Yud Beis, and that's the rule that Beseder. Now I have Sivav, I have this item that broke off, it's right from Malacha. Okay? But now that it broke off, it's right from Malacha. But did I throw it out on Erev Shabbos? If I threw it out on Erev Shabbos, so now you explicitly, Lahedra made it that this is not a Kli. You explicitly made it, it's not a Kli. Siv Zayin, it broke on Erev Shabbos. So then it's mutter, you're allowed to, but if you threw it out on Erev Shabbos, you have a Kli, it has a usage. But you threw it out Erev Shabbos, so then that's already ice kli. Even though, when you decide now on Shabbos, you want to just go to the garbage and take it out of the garbage, it's already ice kli. Now it's ice kli. Again, you see the same idea in Sif Yud Beis. Sif Yud Beis, Shari Machzalas is mutter. It's mutter. Pieces of beged that ripped off are mutter. But Imzarka Midbay Diyayim, Aser. Again, now you saw Vav. So Zion, so Yud Beis, cloud number one is it has to be that it's roy for malacha. It broke and it's roy for malacha. Cloud number two is that you didn't throw it out on Erev Shabbos. If I threw it out Erev Shabbos, I'm saying the first, by me it's no longer a kli. If you threw it out Erev Shabbos, it's no longer a kli. Cloud number three, the third cloud that we saw yesterday in Machet, in Sif Yud Aleph, and you see it again in Sif Tezvav. That's the cloud that if it's not the derech, it has to be that even if, let's say now it broke on Shabbos. It broke on Shabbos, right? And it's main malacha rishayna. It does some type of malacha, but now you have to have a new klal. Is it something that the derech of the oilam is to throw it out? If it's the derech of the oilam to throw it out, then it's muksa. So these are the three klalim. Where does it say that? Yud Aleph. Shulchan Aruch says, but if the piece of the chayid fell off, the actual a part of the needle fell off. So then it's aser. Says the Mishabura, why is it aser? Sagt the Mishabura, because the derech of the oilam is they throw this thing out. Mishabura says this is not the type of thing. It's the derech of the thing that the people throw out. So Memela, that's cloud number three. You see it again in Sif Tesvav. A sandal that broke on Shabbos. Something that depending where it broke, if it broke in such a way that the oilam throws it out, so it doesn't matter if you throw it out or you don't throw it out. It matters if this is something that the derech is to throw out. So with this, you have three klalim. Now you know. Now you saw Vav, you saw Zayin, you saw Yud Aleph, Yud Beis. This is also Yud Gimel really, and Tezvav. And you should all see it yourselves today. The actual sifim are quite intricate with their cases and Gemara type cases. But the three rules that come out are very simple rules. Rule number one. It's got to be something that me'ein malacha, it does some type of malacha. What malacha? We'll have to learn. It has to do some type of malacha. It broke. It has to be able to do something still. Otherwise, it's gufa. Rule number two, okay, now it does something. But if I threw it out Erev Shabbos, so then it's a shever kli that you've shown everybody that by you is not a kli anymore. So now it's a muksa machmas gufa. Rule number three is that let's say you didn't throw it out, but it's a derech that everybody throws this thing out. The derech of the velt is to throw it out. So then that also will say on you, it's a batla daita. And you can ask a kasha. Yes, kasha. What do you mean? We just learned all of Chesed Kiss. That's a kasha. No, that's a kasha, right? You just learned all of Chesed Kiss. In all of Chesed Kiss, we always said it's all totally in the Bailim. It's all totally in the Bailim. So here you're seeing a big side. That's when we're trying to find out, is a person makbid? If we're trying to figure it out, is a person makbid? So we look at the person himself. Are you makbid? So that makbid, you can when something is a kli, you can decide if it has a value, a chshivas to it. That's totally in the Bailim. You don't have the ability to decide if something is a kli. You can't make something into a kli. Your kpeda, your decision of keeping it or whatnot, that doesn't have the ability to make it into a kli. Right? You might have the ability to be mevatel from the same kli if you threw it out on Erev Shabbos. So that's the rules. Those are the three rules that come out from over here. The rules are, again, rule number one, it has to be roy from malacha. Right? We'll see cases in Yetz Hashem in a moment. It has to be right for malacha. Maybe even me'ain the malacha that it used to do. Maybe that's one rule. You have a fork that the prong falls off. So is it me'ain the original malacha? Yeah, you could use it as a toothpick to catch a grape or something and to put into your mouth or something like that. So maybe it's me'ain malacha, right? Rule number 2: did you throw out that piece of fork on Erev Shabbos? If you threw out that piece of fork Erev Shabbos, it's game over. That's about it. You're mevatel from the shem kli that we saw from Sif Zayin, that we saw from Sif Yud Beis. The rule number 3 is that what if it's something that the derech of the velt is? They all throw it out. How many people? You tell me. How many people would keep that prong of the fork? Probably the second it falls off in the stomach right away. You just throw it in the garbage. If that would be the case, it won't matter. Rule number 1 and rule number 2. Now it's going to be a muksa machmas gufay. And then Sif Zayin, which for sure we're not going to do today. That's the next week in Mitzvah Shem. It's a whole new gzeira that when you have something that it's the derech to put back together again. So then Chazal were afraid, you're going to go and try to put it back together again. This is, you're going to take the fork and you're not going to try to put back together again because you would need a uman to go and put that back, to go and to professionally put it back on. So therefore you're not going to be able to do it. So Chazal, but sometimes you have something that all you have to do is put in a screw, like glasses. That's where the big sug is. A glass pops out. It's a very common thing. The person is going to put it back in and he's going to go and shtup it and he might be from poina. So Chazal said, even in a case where it'll do main malacha, look, you could have the glass, you could go use it like this. It still works, right? It's definitely not the derech to throw it out, and you didn't throw it out, so technically she won't be muksa. Elamai, but now you have a new thing. But now we have to worry. But wait a minute, Chazal made a new gzeira. Stay away from this. Because if you don't stay away from this, you're going to come to put it back together. Where, what, when, who, why? That Mitzvah Shem, we have to learn Sita Zayin. But that's the klalim. I must tell you, when you read the Mishnah Berurahs now, that's what you're looking for. That you're looking for these klalim, and it's much easier now. The Mishnah Berurah is all over the place over here. But that's what you're looking for. When you find that, you now know how Mitzvah Shem will work together to try and apply it. So let's start. Let's start again. I know the Olam has to see it, so I'm going to start you off over here a little bit, maybe more than a little bit, but. Let's start. So the beer loch over here, in Dibra Maskul Kigoyim, again, the beer loch. The beer loch in Kigoyim, he says, if it's ain roi l'shum malacha, then this is our case, right? It's not roi for anything. What's our example so far? We'll have better examples in a moment, right? But his a piece of the fork and the bottom fell off, of the handle fell off. Pasha not right for anything. Says the Mishnah Berurah, this thing is not roi. Memela, it's aser muksa machmas gufay. It's not mutter, not l'tzarech gufay, not l'tzarech mekoyma. It's total muksa. What's a good example of this? Maybe. So I saw like this. I saw in the Orchos Rabbeinu, in the 142nd page, he brings down an interesting story that Rechaim Kanievsky was taking a walk with his father, with the stipler. Then all of a sudden, there they are on Shabbos, and they saw a little piece of geniza, like a stick paper of geniza. So Stipler told Chaim Kanievsky to pick it up. There was no Erev, or they didn't hold it there, whatever. To pick it up and put it on a rock, which was within Daled Amos. He told him pick it up and put it on the rock, which was within Daled Amos. Okay, they came home. They told the Chazon Ish the story. They told the uncle the story. And so the Chazon Ish told them, interesting, I don't know what was the reason why they told the Chazon Ish the story. We have to try and figure that out also. Right? The Stipler told them, pick it up and put it on the rock. Right? maybe the shaila was, should we have taken it home, even though there was no Erev? Maybe there was an Erev, and should we have been Simon there? Maybe should we have walked down? I don't know what they asked the Chazon Ish. It doesn't say over there, it just tells the story. So the Chazon Ish said, you're over on muksa. You're over on muksa. You picked up a piece of geniza. You're over on muksa. So I Maisa, and what's pshat the Stipler? Well, and the Stipler doesn't know that it's muksa. So let's try and figure the story out. Let's see. Is it me'ein malacha? There's words there. There's words there. Now, if it's mamish, just a piece of paper that has no words on it or anything, how would the Stipler have known that it was geniza? Elamai, he used Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, so I don't know. But some stuff it had words there. If it had words there, so it's me'ein malacha. You could learn from it something. You could read from it something. So it's me'ein malacha. Elamai. Had it been thrown out on Erev Shabbos? So I don't know, something found in the spear. I'm not sure how to done that. But, sorry? Again, Sifrei Kodesh is a concept that when it's in its form, we're now in a broken Sifrei Kodesh. So you can't just say it has that ultimate heter of Sifrei Kodesh, that Sifrei Kodesh that never goes to Muksa. We're trying to figure out now that it lost maybe its status of that ultimate Kli, and therefore now we have to don it like that. For example, if a piece of the paper would just fall off, with just the paper part, it's hard to believe that would have it did. But let's see. Sorry.
Very
Oh, so wait, slowly. 1 second. So it's main malacha. It's probably main malacha. Is it something that was?
Is all the food in the bag or something's in the fridge?
It fell out of a safer or something. I don't know. It wasn't thrown. I don't know.
So I'm going now.
Imagine that.
Text me the exact address.
I wonder if this is machlek. I'm wondering out loud because the Chazon Ish didn't tell us. The Stipe doesn't tell us what the fight is. I'm wondering out loud. Maybe what's the discussion between the Stipler and the Chazon Ish? That something that's oimid for 16. Is that like oimid for an ashpa? What's the lumdus of something that's oimid for geniza? In other words, it's oimid to be nignaz and to never used, right? Is that like oimid to be thrown into an ashpa? How do you learn such a thing? An ashpa is something that it's never going to be used. Okay, I could hear maybe that's the fight. Maybe the Stipler held, at least in his Havamina, but the Stipler held that something that's oimid to be thrown. Everyone agrees that geniza is oimid to be thrown into a geniza, but maybe putting something into geniza is like you're putting it in a safe place where you're trying to protect it. Maybe agufa, that doesn't take away its shame if it's kli, if it's chashivas. And the Stipler, the Mustamel, like the Chazon Ish, he held no. You're putting it away in a way where it's never going to be used again. So you're being mevatel shimush. That's what you're doing when you're putting it to geniza, right? So what do you think after such a story? What do you think the Meiser Chaim Kanievsky holds? I mean, we know that the Chaim Kanievsky, when everything there was the Chazon Ish, right? And that was what it was always, right? When the Stipler's Rebbe was nifter, the Chazon Ish was nifter. So he said, okay, so from now you need the Rebbe. So all the shilas went to the mechutin, went to Rabbi Yashiv. But that means until that point, right? All the shilas went to the Chazon Ish. He understood that the Chazon Ish was the paisik. So Mistama, when they asked his shaila to the Chaim Kanievsky in the Alibah D'Elchasa in the 57th volume, the 179th page, right? So Mistama, what do you think is going to happen? So he's going to say that it's taka muksa, right? So very interesting. They asked Chaim Kanievsky this shaila, and Chaim Kanievsky answered back that it's not muksa. It's made malacha rishayna, and therefore it's not muksa. Now I don't know what is Chaim Kanievsky going to say. I would be intrigued to know. What if it's already in geniza? Because then we'd have the answer to our shaila. Something that's mamish in geniza already, is that already not considered? It's a funny thing. It's about mamish, a very important shaila, right? You have a geniza, everyone has like a little geniza bag or something that he puts all the geniza, especially once you have children and whatever, So you start putting the geniza or the geniza box in the yeshiva and whatever. What's the din of the geniza? What's it? To me, it's a big. By me, I'm going still with the Stipler's Havamina. But Sirif, what Rabbi Fulda is asking, it could be to uproot that which was never nechlol in the Tekanas Chazal in the first place. You have to look at it in that direction. Chazal never were goyzer on Kisvei Kodesh. Now we're trying to figure out a way to say it's so broken it lost its shame Kisvei Kodesh. That's already a big chiddush. I'm noted to say that you can't lose your shame Kisvei Kodesh. Maybe like the paper loch, the little pieces of the gillion of the sides that I could hear. Maybe you would lose your shame of your Kisvei Kodesh. But Al-Kapanim, but without that, I would have thought that it's not. This is what I would have thought. What? Come again? Then what? Apostle say Torah is not something that's oimid lizroik, and therefore it's no comparison. Mashen Kain here, Geniza is something which oimid lizroik. Our shaila. This is how I would have thought the shaila. What is that called an oimid lizroik? Oimid lizroik into a matzav of kovid of Geniza. What is Geniza? Geniza is kovid. You're trying to be going as if Boivin shall cover, right? What? They're getting rid of it, Boivin shall cover. But maybe that's Hagufa not being Mavatla. Maybe taking something, throwing it in an ashpa. That's Hagufa Shaila. But it's interesting. At least now you know what the Havamina of Stipe was, and now you know what the Maskana Rechaim Kanievsky is. It to me sounds like a very big chiddush. I mean, you're not asking more of a shaila. You're just bringing out the goydel haspilus that's going to come out that like somebody put something into the geniza, and I don't know. To me, it's a big chiddush to say, "Hey, Rabbi Fulda, I'm going with your attitude, with your ashkafa, but I'm not starting from there. I'm saying if you want to uproot a kisvei kodesh, I don't know if to uproot a kisvei kodesh is going to be as easy. And kal v'chomer where you didn't do it in such an easy way. In other words, to uproot a shame kli, I could hear very easily. You have the piece of the fork that fell off; it's broken. So then the whole idea that it was a shame kli was it was usable. Okay, so now it broke off. You threw it in the Erev Shabbos, you threw it out, or it's oimid to throw out, or both of the above, or neither of the above. It's ain't oimid from malacha. A kisvei kodesh. To say that it lost its shame, Kisvei Kodesh, I don't even know if you threw it in Erev Shabbos. I don't even know. Who says? Yeah. Okay, so I'm asking, there could be, situations of where you're gonna have to don each case and say if it's totally unreadable, if it's totally, it could very well be, it could be. Well, Reb Chaim Meiser, when he one time he got a letter from the Rugged Shoiver, yeah, and the letter was on the table in the Beis Din of Vilna because he had no time. Reb Chaim Meiser said he had no time to read it, so he just gave it to the Beis. You read it, He gave it to the Beis Din. You guys read it. What? No, he told them. Wait, let me tell you the story. You don't even know the story. So the Rugged Shoiver, you know the story. So he sent. I said the story. So he said. Make sure before you kill the guy who took the microphone, you bring him to me. Is that it? Before, first me. Yeah. Then after, yeah. But Al Kapanim. But so the Rugged Shoiver sent a letter to Chaim Meiser about something that he wasn't happy about, a certain psak. So Chaim Meiser said he doesn't have time. He told the Beis Din they should read it and just tell him what he's saying. What's his taina? So the Beis Din took the letter. They couldn't read it. It wasn't even ayin. It was just this, that, zvachem, this. I don't know why everything shver is always zvachem, but tainis stuff, whatever. It stayed on the table of the Beis Din in Vilna. Of course, been set over for 2 weeks. So Chaim Meiser comes out one day, says, "What's this? Nobody read it to me. What's it?" So they couldn't understand it. We'd have to. It's a whole Ma'amar in the Rugged Shoiver. So Chaim Meiser took it. It was 5 lines. Chaim Meiser took it. He went like this. No. Yeah, deine Malach and learning. Ich habe meine Malach and learning. Everybody has their Malach and learning. Like that's a kasha. So it could be, you have a stick of paper. Rabbi Kiva Eger, when I told you this to Rabbi Kiva Eger, when he was in the inn, so he needed a sefer. He told the innkeeper to host epis for me. So he said, we have this, food, a sefer. He found epis, a Rashbin Yavamis. That was like the only thing that he had, a Rashbin Yavamis. He found a Rashbin Yavamis. So he brought Rabbi Kiva Eger a Rashbin Yavamis. He brought him a Rashbin Yavamis. Oh, so Rabbi Kiva Eger finally had a sefer. So Rabbi Kiva Eger that night, he had only a Rashbin Yavamis, and he read the whole Rashbin Yavamis. How did they know he read the whole Rashbin Yavamis? Because the innkeeper said over that it was missing a page, which he didn't know was missing a page. But Rabbi Kiva Eger wrote over the page verbatim, right? And where was the page? The page was on Daf Kuf Yud Zayin in Yavamis. So we know he got the Kuf Yud Zayin, right? We know he got the Kuf Yud Zayin. So Rabbi Kiva Eger, so somebody said over the story, so Rabbi Chanan asked him and said, so why did Rabbi Kiva Eger ask for a sefer if he knows it all by heart? He said, Oisius machkimas. The Oisius make you smart. So besides, sometimes you have words you don't know. They could still have Torah. The fact that me and you can't read it, but maybe Chaim Meiser could, right? Maybe Chaim Meiser could. Sorry? Yeah, the Geniza basket. Yeah, so then it could be, okay, we'll talk about, so it could be, that's already, you can have a garbage also, we'll see soon, that might be, doesn't have necessarily a shame of a garbage. Did I ever tell you the story? I'm a shtickle story movie because I don't have a microphone. Should I tell you the story? I was in, because we're going to talk in a moment, obviously, about disposable kalim. That's where we're headed. That has a shame of a shever kli. So I saw today that their Shlomo Zalman brings down that people don't drink from cups that were in the garbage. So I once, did I ever tell you the story when I went to Mehron? Yes. All right, tell the story. I'll say the kitzur. For those that are hearing the story for the first time, my apologies. But I went to Mehron. I drove through the night to get to Mehron. Long story, but whatever. Anyways, I drove through the night. I get there, and the whole thing that was carrying me the last hour was the cup of coffee I'm going to have in Mehron. The chayrotel that somebody in Mitzvah donated, and the coffee was what was pulling me to Mehron. As I sat there driving like this, my wife held the wheel, and I was driving like this, And the coffee I was going to get in Mehron, that was pulling me to Mehron. I come to Mehron. It's like right before the donation came here. It was like 3:30 in the morning, 2:30, whatever it was. And there I am. I'm trying to scrape together the scrapings from a little bit of some coffee, and it felt like I was in the Haim, and a little bit of like some sugar that was like a clump of chepis, and with lots of, clearly milchiks, clearly milk, and the spoon that had that like dreadful, I don't, what I'm talking about. But now there's one more problem. I need a cup. So what am I going to do? So there's like a garbage can of cups there. I'm looking at the cup, and I'm thinking of all the mahalchim. I'll sterilize it under the hot water, like everybody thinks kilu that works, and whatever. We found out about the socks after. So whoever's not laughing is not one of us. But anyways, I'm looking at the cup. I'm looking. Finally, see Yerushalmi Yid there. So Yerushalmi Yid that somehow wound up in Meron. So and there he says, he looks at me. He says to me, and I looked like like the way I look. I had my tie. No, it's Amerikanische Balabos. That's what he says to me. Amerikanische Balabos. Amerikanische Balabos. Was bist du besser than the andere 20 Menschen? Who are you better than the other 20 people that used that cup before you? Okay, so Mr. Shem, we have to talk a lot about these things. But let's see. No, so that's what he's asking. In the Geniza, in my, in certain shuls, you'll always maybe take it out. It's not so pushy to me, this Geniza. I go with the Stiplers, Havamina. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that there.
That way it doesn't lose its shape. You say that food, you peel it, right? Peel it's technically edible.
No, but it peels is the whole sugar. That we're going to learn. That's a very big shiloh. It's not edible by us. It's edible by farm animals. Right? What? You're in public now, but what? Sorry? Okay. Right there. Okay. Okay. Now, Rabbi say, there was a story that happened when we were learning books in the Kollel. Last time, that was, I don't know, 6 years ago. The story was like this. I can't remember if it was somebody in the Kollel or if it was when we were learning it. I don't remember. But the story was like this. The story was that there was a key that, I just remembered it now. There was a key that broke off in the door. Right, the worst thing in the world. Worst thing, right? It's worse than somebody taking the microphone. If you find the guy. So the key broke off in the door. So he's left in his hand with the top part, the round part of the key, right? So his shiloh was like this. So the key's in the door. There's nothing you can do. You have to get a locksmith. There's a malasot. You have to now get a locksmith and you have to change the lock, whatever. But now the way it broke was that the actual key in the door that broke, there was a little space that still jutted out, and that he held. So it still would open the door. You understand what I'm saying? Am I being clear? I have to take out a key to, yeah. Oh, I'm clear. Okay, good enough, because I don't have a microphone. I can't tell if I'm clear now. So, this part, Khalila, no, I'd hire. But the key broke off, and inside the door is the key, but he could still shtup epis, and he could still epis monkey, the monkey with it, or even the gorilla with it. You could do something with it to get it to open, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's a key. If everyone wants to see what a key looks like, that's a key. And upon him. So his shaila was, is it muksa on Shabbos? So b'shaita, he went to a Rav, a Choshev Rav, right? Maybe he wrote a sefer, this Rav. And this Rav told him that it's muksa, because it's a derech to throw it out. It's a derech to throw it out. It's for sure it's a derech to throw it out. Now we all agree. It's a derech to throw it out. And therefore, he held it was muksa, even though it's main malach at this point, because it still does what its original function is. Right? But it's certainly the derech to throw it out. And therefore, he said that even though it happened on Shabbos, and he didn't throw it out on Erev Shabbos, but Al Kapanim, it was muksa. He brought the Rav the key, and the Rav on the spot, he told him you have to drop it, which is also chiddush, because Maisa, maybe once you're holding muksa, and Maisa, it's a b'shaita. I don't remember if it was somebody in the, you guys weren't here then. There was no white in the beard then. It was a long time ago. But the story, I think, was that afterward he asked me, and I thought that it wasn't muksa. Let's see. It does me'ein malacha rishayna. It does mean malacha rishayna. It obviously hadn't been thrown out yet. Elamai, it's a derech to throw out, right? So that was the fight. Do you say it's a derech to throw out? It's certainly not the derech to throw this out until you get a locksmith, right? What? Yeah, no, obviously, I'm saying in this case that it works, it would be the derech of every normal person that until he gets a locksmith, once he would chop the fact that it still went in and that it works, so then he would still use it. So this Rav obviously was looking at the derech to throw it out, I guess in the near future, as we say, or whatever. I don't see why. Why would you say that? I don't know. And I besides, that's a good example of our sugya. That's a good example. Okay, that's a chayah. Okay, that's number one. Now you have klar. The first rules are if it's something that breaks, or it has to be something that's the derech to throw out, or it has to be something that was thrown out, and it has to be it's not main malacha. Comes again, Shulchan Aruch Siv Zayin. That's Sivav Siv Zayin. Okay. So now we know Chatichas Cheres, that was Nishper. So here it tells us again, it has to be Roy Malacha, if Zarka Ashpa, Mishnah Berurah v'yasiv kotin memches. Listen to Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah memches. He explains. He says he's talking about the case of a machat. We saw this yesterday. A zimnin denimlach alav vein noikva aval benotel chayra. But if it got broken, batal minei shem kli. When a needle breaks, it's broken. So, for the Mishnah Berurah, if the eye of the needle wasn't put in the first place, so then you told me it is a shem kli. So now when the eye of the needle got broken off, it's not a shem kli. It's the exact same thing. It looks the same. So what's the difference? So Mishnah Berurah says no, because that's the derech l'isrei koisa ben shivrei meteches, because that's what people do. They throw her out. So that's what takes away the shem kli. If it's a derech for people to throw it out, that's what takes away the shem kli. And the Shulchan Aruch says over here in Siv Zayin, and that if you already threw it out on Erev Shabbos, that's already enough for us. Mishnah Berurah Siv Kat Nun Aleph. Look at these; they're all very important. Mishnah Berurah Rabbi Isaac. I'm trying to make your life easier to pick out the ones that just get the point, the nakuda. Im zarka ashba. If you did it Erev Shabbos, Mishnah Berurah Nun Aleph. Batla miyois oid keli. That's it. You took away the shame of this kli. Okay. Now, you could learn. I saw that Rav Nissen Karelitz in the end of the 51st parak. Rav Nissen says, maybe it's only talking about an ashpa of a garbage. He says, no, that's not true. Even if you threw it in your local Orthodox garbage, you threw it in the garbage in your kitchen, that's already called an ashpa, and that's already mevatel the shem kli. That's it. And I saw every sefer that brings this down, mamish like the Aseres Adibros. I'm not convinced. I'm not arguing. I'm not right to argue. I'm not convinced. I want you to know there's an incredible chiddush here, which is going to have ramifications on mamish all of Hilchos. As Rabbi said, the way you're supposed to be listening now to the shir is I have to start figuring out what is my garbage. Is my garbage muksa? We have to start, trying to figure out, is the garbage muksa? What is going on in my garbage can, which is tremendous nafkaminas. Can I then bring the garbage to the table so that I can clean it up like that? Or no, I have to leave the garbage in its place, and the only time I can move the garbage is grab shabbat. We have to start broadening our musagim over here. Rav Nissen says, once you throw this broken kli, whatever she is, we have to get to who's the broken kli, but once you throw it in the garbage, even in your house, that's called you threw her to an ashba. That's a big chiddush. That's a big chiddush, right? It's a very big chiddush. Why is it a big chiddush? Maybe an ashpa is mamish. An ashpa is outside their house. An ashpa is a garbage heap. It's the ashpa is like the green monster out there, or now they don't have the green ones, the special ones, but those ones, that's a garbage that you can understand is a bittul and gantin for a moment. It's a bittul and gantin, and nobody will ever take anything out of there. It's not negeya. So maybe that's where we say this incredible chiddush that it's mevatel the shem kli. Something out of shem kli, you're trying to destroy its shem kli. So then now you're telling me it's mevatel the shem kli because you made it ois usage for anybody. Maybe the garbage. Everybody say, how far do you take this? There's a new garbage bag and I throw something in there, right? That's ois kli. It's a big chiddush. It's a big chiddush. I'm not arguing. You're not arguing. I'm just telling you that it's a chiddush and don't accept it like this. I said, we have to be baidik. We have to be baidik and see if it's taka so pashit. And certainly it might be a factor when we're donning different things. It certainly might be a factor. How many people, there's a bottle in the garbage, okay, Yana Meron, Ken Saintel Sandwich, but how many people, there's a bottle in the garbage and he realizes he needs a bottle, he'll take the bottle out, especially his own garbage. Let's just work, we'll go shlav, but just in misagim, conceptually, right? So that's already not so pashit. This is not so pashit. Not so pashit. Okay. Now, that's we have to see. What about food? There's no diburim here about food. Later on, we get to peels and shells and eggshells and all the all things you like, right? But that's later on. That's later on. No one talks here about food. That's what goes on today. But there's a lot of that's what we do after the cholent. You scoop out the rest, you throw it into the garbage, right? And I'm scraping. That's exactly what exactly what I'm doing right now. That's what we do. All that extra food we throw in the garbage. How many times have you heard the words, "No one's gonna eat this"? And you hear no one, right? Garbage, right? That's no one's gonna eat this, right? So and how far do you take it? Let's say there's like a thing of hummus, and somebody made the dreadful mistake of saying, "I think it might be off." It's over. It's over. It's over. No, taste it. Over. It's like the worst thing. Is the milk off? Worst thing, imagine doing that to somebody, 7 o'clock in the morning before you had this coffee. I think the milk might be off. Okay, so then the milk is off. All right. It's been a hard day so far. It's been a difficult day. Okay. It could always come to the kind of ambassador. But that milk, now you take that hummus and you throw it in the garbage. L'maisa. Could you say it's mamish totally muksa and totally this? Somebody else that doesn't know about it, we don't know what goes back in the kitchen in the restaurants. I do. That's why whatever. But we don't know what goes on in the back of the restaurants, right? Sometimes you're in a restaurant and you're looking for the Nagelwasser cup and there's no cup there to wash or whatever. And then, should I finish? Then you tell the person the other way, maybe a Nagelwasser. Oh, okay. It comes out from the kitchen with a Nagelwasser. Okay. It's easier to make soup when you can just take a Nagelwasser cup and go like this, Okay, let's go weiter. But you understand, if you didn't know it, it didn't bother you. A lot of things that I hope and pray. Levi filled up this bottle with water, right? We don't want to know. We're happy to know that there's water in here. If it came from a Nagelwasser, would you ever drink out of a Nagelwasser cup? No, I'm sorry, right? But would you ever drink out of a Nagelwasser cup? No. But would you, if you didn't know, sometimes ignorance bliss, sometimes it's bliss. So it's the same thing, that chumash in the garbage, right? And it's can, we'll go make a mishmah. I just want to, today I'm just trying to open up your musagim a little bit, right? The chumash in the garbage inside its kli, inside its container still. If somebody would serve it to you, you would eat it. It's not, you could say such a thing. And here I'm talking where it's still in its, you could say such a thing as muksa. Did we ever find? And there's oichlim, Rabbi Folder. Here you're trying to remove from the shame oichlim. I'm not convinced such a thing should be muksa. Then go further. Now you're the cholent that went into the garbage. I'm not eating her. I'm not eating her because I saw it, right? What would happen? You know what happens. You know what goes on. Who knows what goes on? Who knows? We know what goes on. Who knows what happens? No, I don't want to say, but who knows? Especially who knows? And the young wife, she wants to impress her husband. She wants to impress her husband, and so who knows? Let's go weiter. So sometimes, and let's say all of a sudden Bochrim, I'm sorry, but all of a sudden Bochrim knock on the door and they say, look, we don't have a meal. And you say, okay, great, all right. So we just go and everything that was scraped in, look, it's still edible. It's not. Now no one's doing this. Maybe, right? No one's doing this, but you understand that if they would do it, wow, the chocolate has a certain type of a taste to it, Yeah, it's a certain type of a taste. So it's edible. It's edible, but you're not eating her. It's edible, but you're not eating her. What's the din of edible, but you're not eating her? That's already a whole new thing. Maybe, who gives you a right to take away the shame food? Right? For example, stell sich vor. There's a Shulchan Aruch. Excuse me. There's a Shulchan Aruch that really is based on, not just Shulchan Aruch, it's really more, the Mishnah Berurah says it out first. Let me read you the Mishnah Berurah. There's a Mishnah Berurah. I didn't write down where the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan is. I think in your base, actually. Mishnah Berurah talks about if you throw out a full beged. 1 second. Then Aleph it was? Yeah. Thank you. Mishnah Berurah says, "Umachatzelis shlema," a full shirt. What happens? You're coming after Purim. Purim this year is mamish. It's a 3-day yontif. Last year was a 3-day yontif. Every year it's a 3 days. You come after Purim, and it's the shirt has and you're sitting there and you're looking at the shirt, and somebody says to you, maybe it's not Shabbos day, right? So you take off the shirt. You say, forget it. There's some shirts that's just not tied to clean, and you throw it straight in the garbage. It wasn't worth it. Sometimes you have like some wacky. These people buy these wacky shotness filled begad, whatever. So you say, she's not kedai. You take off that wacky jacket and the wacky dust, and you throw it in the garbage. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that dust is nishmukse. That's nishmukse. Even if you did it Erev Shabbos, you threw it out even Erev Shabbos, not mukse. Why? It's like the Mishnah Berurah, afilu zarken la'ashpa motor. The butler daita etzel kol adam. Now this is interesting. What does the Mishnah Berurah mean? It's butler daita etzel kol adam. I mean, there are people that throw out clothing, right? There is a concept. You do throw out things, right? I'll give you an example. There comes one second. There comes a point of where a shirt is worn out, even in the times of Radin, Rabbi say. Right? There comes a point of where the shirt is worn out. Okay, so now I throw out that worn out shirt today. Another guy a month later. Another guy 2 months later. Right? It's all a matter of. So what does it mean? Let's say he threw out the shirt, and by him it's worn. Everyone agrees you throw out shirts when they're worn. Ligamri, there's nothing left to wear, etc. Right? So why is it butler daita? There's a lot of people like it, and there's a lot of people that throw it out. That there's a big mistake that people make when they learn this Mishnah Berurah. Listen to me carefully. A lot of people make a mistake. They learn this Mishnah Berurah. It's Batla Daita because he took they think he took a place. He took like a brand new recorder and he took it and he threw it in the garbage. Just he's a crazy man. It's Batla Daita. It's a Kalada. Mishnah Berurah is not talking about that. That's not the pshat in this Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says a yisoid in being mevatel the shame kli. If you're trying to be mevatel the shame kli, you would bottle your das to the kol adam. Here he doesn't mean like what people would do and what people think. Would people agree that it still is a kli? They would agree it's still a kli. They would agree it's still usable. They agree they're not going to wear it. They'll throw it out too. I'll throw it out faster than you. I'll throw it out a month earlier than you, right? But we agree that it's still wearable, and you have a right to decide I'm not wearing it. Listen closely, because this answers up. There was a certain great Jew, Nidbru, and he wanted to say, well, today it's different. We throw out shirts faster, and this is not true. This is not true. The Mishnah Berurah is talking about full shleimistic kalim. That also people had kufas when they threw them out. Some people earlier, some people later. There's absolutely no reason to believe that the Mishnah Berurah is talking about a crazy man and that he was just throwing out good things. He was over on Baltashchis. That's what the Mishnah Berurah means. He was over on Baltashchis. Chas v'chalila. There's no makor for such a thing. As I bezai, yana shirt mitvamet. Right? So I understand you're not cleaning it, and I also wouldn't clean it. Sometimes it's not worth when something is polyester. Right? It's just sometimes, and it's mahus is polyester, right? And it's like with the green and the dust and the vomit is just mixing into the shirt and this. So sometimes it's just not kedai to throw her. It's just not kedai to clean her. It's just more kedai to throw her in the garbage. And next person will buy a new costume. Is that called that kli? Is bottled from the shame kli? Because everybody in the world would do that. Everybody would do it. Start says no. Batla daita it's a kol adam. What does it mean? Batla daita. Everybody would do that. It means batla daita klape your uptight of this not being a kli. This is yes still a kli. That's what it means over here, and it has to be because of the like I'm saying the mitzias. What's the nafkamina of this? What's nafkamina? So go back to food. So you have a right to come along and say it's not food. You put it in the garbage. It's still edible. Again, it's not edible by you because you know the secret that it was in the garbage. I know you're not going to eat it, but it's not edible by you. But that does not make her not edible. I'm not even talking about animal food, which is a whole sugya. Right? I'm sorry, B'shtender, that I have to say animal food and look at you every time I say it, but you did it to yourself. Right? But animal food is a whole sugya, and that's going to be shlav beis. It could be that anyways this might turn into animal food and whatever. We'll have to see if there's animals in town, but assuming there's no animals, right? So tachlis, this is why it's not so simple. We have muksa, and that's why the Shmiras Shabbos in the 20th parak, in the 27th sif over there, he says, even if you threw out the food Erev Shabbos. Now, again, he doesn't mean you threw it into a diaper or whatever, and it became taka mamish inedible for anybody. Again, there's the shlavim of this. If it became so inedible that it's something that no one could eat it because, it's not shayach, then for shteitzach, that gets into a new sugya of animal food, which we might not have animals, et cetera, et cetera. But if it's something that is edible, agam, you're not eating it, it does not have a shei books. Edible, but in other words, I gave the example of the restaurant as a mashal. If I would take it out and you would not know, you would eat it, right? If I would take it out and you would not know, you would eat it. The mashal, it's a mashal, but it just brings out the point. I'm just giving a mashal to show that it's edible, right? Again, it's only gross by, that's why I gave these examples. It's gross by you because you see it inside the garbage, right? 100%. But that's a knowledge. That doesn't sushtal to the chefza. Now, if it actually gets soy on it and who knows what on it and whatever, so then the actual taste would be inedible. The chefza would be inedible. That's already a different shmuz. I'm not going to say that, because the first bite until he finds out he'll eat it. That's a vada, a maskin. That could be the Sorry? I didn't hear. The food, yeah. No, because here we're saying that books for anyone, right? There you're getting involved in a clear, in a cheftza, and okay. Again, I want you to now. Yeah. Yeah, but there's pashit because there it's in a closed container. There's fruits and vegetables. Because I want you to know that's very important to me, that story, because I feel bad, but but it's very important to me, that story, because there's a real ashpa. There's a real ashpa, and Aval Pikain, so he's just proving my point that it's definitely edible. Definitely edible. It's definitely 100% edible. It's not something that me and you want to eat, right? But it is definitely edible. What? Sorry? Okay. Now, wait, let me just finish. I'll answer after everybody says. I'm almost done. And you okay? You okay? So that, like this, everybody said. So not clear. Rabbi Bodner. Okay, now we start. Now we're all equal. Okay, now we have all the klalim. I want you all now to go and learn these klalim inside. But now we're all equal, basically. Now we're all equal. The Rabbi Bodner in his sefer, he in Dalit in the fourth parak in Mem Zayin, he asked Rav Moshe about Shivrei Kalim, broken Kalim, and Rav Moshe said a swooping statement. He said, today all Shivrei Kalim are muksa, because no one uses anything that's broken, and therefore it's always muksa, because it's a derech lizraik. It's always the derech lizraik. And even if you'll find me some me'ain malacha, but it's always going to be the derech lizraik. That's what Rav Moshe said. Now, it's not Xeris HaKotzev. Rav Moshe didn't tell that Xeris HaKotzev. That story I told you with the key before, if you could find me something that it's not the derech, then it's not Xeris HaKotzev. Rav Moshe didn't create the Xeris HaKotzev that you're not allowed to keep around Avada. I would say something in the realm of like, B'derech Klal, Rav Moshe is right. B'derech Klal, Avada, that's Masif. If this thing breaks on Shabbos, you have a fork, it breaks on Shabbos, you have a case, we'll talk in a minute, like a fork breaks on Shabbos. Right? How does this work? It gets a little complicated. A fork breaks on Shabbos. Let's go to the Chad Pami forks. We're going to have to talk about mitzad themselves anyways. But let's say you would hold that a Chad Pami fork is not muksa after its usage. We'll talk about that. Disposable fork, But let's say, so it always happens. You're sitting at the table, you put it in, and it breaks. Right? It always happens, it breaks. So let's see. It's definitely the derech lizraik. No question, it's a derech lizraik. But it is main malacha rishayna. You still, a lot of times, you lost a prong. Let's say you lost one prong. Let's go in order. You put it in and you lost a prong. Okay, let's go like that. What? So do people throw it out right away at that point? What? It's complicated because it depends if you have another fork or not, right? If you have another fork right there, you're going to take another fork, right? Most people, if they have another fork, they're going to take another fork. If he doesn't have another fork, he's not going to take another fork, right? Sorry? Complicated. Yeah. Because it's you have like a mask that she breaks off. That this thing snaps. This snaps off, right? So if I'm walking down the street, right, Hamshi, right? If I'm walking down the street with a mask and it breaks off, right? So what am I doing? Right, especially in Ramat Eshkol by the police station, right? So what am I doing? I'm certainly going to be. It's me'ain malacha rishayna. I'm still going to be going like this, right? Hagam that it's definitely oymid lizraik, right? It is oymid lizraik. What? It's for sure. It's me'ain. It's not malacha rishayna. It's me'ain for sure. Of course, it's me'ain. It's like a me'ain. It does the same thing that it does. It blocks It makes the police not give me a ticket. Sorry. Who cares about it? What do you mean? For sure. What do you mean? It does mean malacha b'shayna. That's the definition of mean malacha b'shayna. Is that it's doing the same function. It's just more annoying. Now I have to do it. I have to help it or whatever.
What about if somebody picks up a mask?
That's a very good shot. If you see a mask on the floor, I appreciate you guys. It was a hard day when I didn't see my microphone today. It was a hard day. He says, what if you see him? You see a mask on the floor, and and there come the coppers. So Mamela, you have to put on the mask on Shabbos from the floor. On the floor, some things are worth Corona. So he picks up the mask. So what is that? It's a kli shalom. It's a kli shalom, but it's definitely something that it's not but l'daita. It's a kol adam. Okay, we'll get to Chad by me. These are all good shilas. These are big shilas. It's a graf shel rei, that's for sure. Definitely a graf shel rei. But okay, akapanim. Now, we're gonna get there. You should know it's a big shilah. We're gonna get there. Now, Rabbi say. Now, I did see again. I guess we're all equal, which means that now you just have to catch up with seeing the stuff inside. Then Sunday we'll actually start. But I did see. So that person did have my Shalmei Yehuda, and I asked him for it back, and now I have a Shalmei Yehuda again. And in the Sefer Shalmei Yehuda, it brings from Rav Sheinberg Zechrein Levracha. Rav Sheinberg in the back of the Shalmei Yehuda. That's why it's a wonderful Sefer. Also, it's a good Sefer. But in the back, he has a whole kuntris from Rav Sheinberg on the Inyanim Moksa, which Rav Sheinberg wrote, which he put into his own Sefer. Over there in Ois Zayin, Rav Sheinberg has a chiddush, which this is a chiddush which we're going to see over and over and over in Moksa again. The question is, where do you say this chiddush? Now, Rav Sheinberg says this chiddush extreme throughout Moksa. And because of this, he has an extreme, I call it cooler now, but extreme shita in Moksa, which the idea of Rav Sheinberg, we're definitely going to find it in other places. The application over here is a very, very big chiddush. Rav Sheinberg says a side, which we'll see everywhere, that we don't have to always look at you. It's sort of what we're saying right now. We don't always look at you. We have to remember we're living in the throwaway door. This is Rav Sheinberg speaking after the war. In the olden days, he kept everything. And nowadays, we have so many utensils, so much items, so many things that we don't throw out items because of a kilkul in the item. We throw out an item because of the ribui items that we have. He goes with this aside. We throw out items like, you'll look at a plastic cup and it has epis, something. I don't mean a chatpami, a disposable cup. I mean a plastic cup, a hard plastic cup. Epis. You were looking for a reason to buy new plastic cups anyways, So we have a very, low level threshold tolerance for kalim and items. And we have a very, very, high desire to get new ones. What's enough, Kamina? Shimon says over here, if you say it in other places, we're going to say it in many places, right? I told you this concept when it comes even to food. We just throw out food. In the olden days, Rav Sheinberg says he doesn't understand the whole shaila of food. Food's never muksa by Rav Sheinberg, even when the food starts going off, because you won't eat it. Who cares that you won't eat it? In the high, this was Shabbos Kodesh. This was the Siddur Shabbos. So Rav Sheinberg goes very, very, very strong with that idea that if you're throwing out something, not because of a kilkul in the item, but because of a ribui of other items, so then that doesn't show a chesaron in the item, and on that we'll say that concept of batla daita. Okay? Well, what's enough kamina bayaz? Again, I'm going to show this over and over again. What's enough kamina bayaz? He says a tremendous fish. He says that's what they say over. Now I'm telling you from Ramesha, that Ramesha says that Zman hazeh. We don't have shivrei kalim because today, what's the shaykhis? What the shaykhis shivrei kalim? Hooray! By us, you don't have a heter of shivrei kalim because by us, everything that's broken we throw out. So really, you don't have to think twice. Once something's broken, we wind up throwing it out there. For anything that's broken is muksa. Rashayimik says no, you have to don the item. No, not true. You have to don. Is the reason we throw it out because we have a riboy of items. Let's say my mask case that I just gave the example. When you have the string that ripped off, what's the reason you're throwing it out? You're throwing it out because it's a makulkul item that can't be used? No. You're throwing it out because you have 5 billion other masks, so it's just not worth it to you. But you have to look at a time when there wasn't riboy items because you're trying to don, is this item considered makulkal? That is a tremendous chiddush in where we're talking. Elsewhere, it won't be as big a chiddush. Here, it's a tremendous chiddush. Here, we're trying to look at a kli, and we're saying it doesn't have the same function as a previous. It's not like food. Food is the same function that she was. It's the same exact food. It's that you're not interested in eating the food. Then I could very much hear this of Rav Sheinberg. But let's say the mask, that's what's here, that's my example. The mask rips off. So what do you want to say? We agree it's not the exact same kli. It's more annoying. I'd have to hold it. It doesn't do the same function, right? So there's a kilkel here, which is being guiding me to say that this kli is no longer a kli by me. So that is a kilkel in the kli, which I'm saying it's not even enough. It has to be a kilkel in the kli that is not as a result of your knowledge that you have other kalim that you use it. That's tremendous chiddush, because I imagine that all over throughout time period, and all throughout history, part of the decision-making process of a person that would throw something out would be the accessibility of getting a new one. So I'm not convinced, and Rav Moshe said not like this. And Amit Hashem, on Sunday, we're going to go into the disposable kalim, which is a whole new type of a world, because there the keli is intact, but it's something that's oimid to throw out. So how do you look at that? So I hope now catch up. I mean, it's just today, make sure you read Vav and Zayin and what else did we do? Yud, Aleph, and Yud Beis, and Yud Gimel, and Tezvav. Zayin not yet, because Zayin is a whole separate sugya. It's all separate sugya. Let me say something on the parsha. Let me say on the parsha, and then I'll talk to you. Okay, so I welcome all the listeners from Torah Times, Yerushalayim Mir Kodesh. Welcome. So there's a ma'aseh with the stanza of. I said the ma'aseh with the stanza of? Well, I said the ma'aseh? Oh, okay. So the ma'aseh was, there was the yid from Lemberg. I said with the stanza, no? Okay. There was a yid from Lemberg that came to the stanza of. Right? The Chaim came to the stanza. And he told the tzanzer, I need a bracha. I'm a yid from Lemberg, and I need a bracha. So the tzanzer said to him, wait, Zugmir, what happened with the Melamed? What's Hashem with the Melamed? Imagine a yid from Lemberg, he travels all the way to Tzanz, you know. This is before they had the light rail and all that. He says, Zugmir, Velcha Melamed. What do you mean, Velcha Melamed? What happened with the Melamed? The tzanzer Rav asked the yid from Lemberg, what happened with the Melamed? He says to the Melamed, he had a daughter, you know, Melamed, he says the name of the Melamed, and he has a daughter, and he was trying to make a shidduch, and in the end, they were nervous that it might fall through because he couldn't come up with the money for the, you know, for the Nedunya, for the dowry and whatever. So what happened with him? Did he get the money to get? The yid from Lemberg, he just got ambushed in Sanz. He says, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know I kent him taka, but I didn't know he has a daughter. I didn't know she's got married, engaged, and that there was a whole story. He says to him, what do you mean you don't know? If you can't decide, how can it be a yid? I'm a yid in Tzanz, and I know about a yid in Lemberg, and you're a yid in Lemberg, and you don't know what's going on with your neighbor in Lemberg? Good kasha. It's a good kasha. So he says, what's the kasha? What's the kasha? He says, that it's pashid. The yid from Lemberg came to you, the tzanzer, and he told him what's going on by him. And he told him it's tzara, and he told him the problem. So that's why you know what's going on. So he told him, yeah, but how could that be? How's it shaykh that there's a yid in Lemberg that he has a problem and he can't come to you to tell him his problem? And faket, only he can finzach epis nor a yid in the end of the world in Sanz. How come you're not interested to know the problem? Now, if you would be interested to know the problem, so then he first of all, maybe he wouldn't have to come all the way to Tzanz. And number two, how's it shaykh? How's it shaykh that there's a yid in Lemberg that has a problem? You don't know the problem of a yid in Lemberg. So he said that's not such a kasha. It is, you know, kvay kedusha. I have an answer. What's the answer? He said, look, I'm a yid. I work hard every day. I'm a parnasa. You know, you have to I work hard every day, and then what? A yid. What do I do when I come home? I got you know, that's the chatzi lachem and now chatzi lashem. So I said, what do? I go straight to the base medrash. I learn, and I don't have the I don't have the ability. I don't have the time to find out what's going on with another yid in Lemberg, even in Lemberg. So Tanzarav, his face lit up. His son said, okay, hold on, yid that learns. So Shana Talmud Chacham, I didn't know. Whew. You know, you got the, it's close. You know, these rebbes, they can make you into frogs and things. You know, that's close. Rebbe, you know, that's okay. So he says to him, but if you're Talmud Chacham, you have a kasha and a Rashi in the Heintige Parsha. Kasha and Rashi in the Heintige Parsha. Okay, now let's talk. Now you're talking my language. This is what I know. He told him Rashi in Parshas Vayishlach, Rashi says that Yaakov fights with the Malach, and it says, who's the Malach? It doesn't call him a Malach. You know, he didn't have like a teacher, been a Malach. He had Ish, Vayavek Ish Imoy. The Ish came and fought with Yaakov Avinu. Says Rashi, who's this Ish? Saro shel Esav. There's the Sar shel Esav. What's the Sar shel Esav? Satan Alein. Satan Alein. This is the Satan. Yaakov cut off Milchama with the Satan. Sure. So what's Ish? When you see the word Ish in the title, what's Ish? Ish is Satan. Ish is Satan. In next week's parsha, Rashi says on the pasuk that Yosef HaTzadik was looking for his brothers. As a chaya ani mevakesh, I'm looking for my brothers. So vayimtzeu Ish. The Gefinzach mentioned Ish found Yosef, who was lost, couldn't find his brothers. He says to him, who are you looking for? He says, I'm looking for my brothers. And he directed him in the proper direction. So, fact Rashi Yakasha, who's Ish? Zok Rashi, Ish is Gavriel, Amalek Gavriel, the greatest of the Malachim. Gavriel Amalek. Gavriel was the one that saved Avram Avinu from the fire. Gavriel is the Malach. He's the Malach, right? He's the So what's the kasha? So, fact the times are off. Is Ish the Satan? Oh, Nishna the Satan, the Pumfakert is from the Satan, that's two different jobs over there, right? Gavriel, because I'll tell us that Gavriel is mamish, is a very busy malach, as I'll talk about Gavriel, very, very busy malach. And here he is. So who's Ish? Is Ish Satan Ara mamish, or is Ish mamish the halik of the mamish, the most halik of the malachim? Gavriel. It's a good kasha. So he asked the Talmud Chacham, Zuk that teretz. Zuk that episode teretz. Stop the good kasha for Zuk the Rebbe. Zuk the Rebbe. Zuk the Rebbe, the teretz is pashit. The Medrash says, really Rashi came out, brings the whole Medrash. The Medrash says by us that Yaakov at the end of this fight with the Malach, so Yaakov said, he said to the Malach, after the whole Malach, he says, no, give me a bracha. He had a zav machlikas, a zav fight, after you, with the chavusa, he said, give me a bracha, right? So what did the Malach say? The Malach said, nein, ich kenn nicht. Because now, the Medrash is marich a little bit more. It's Alois HaShachar, it says. So now it came his time to say Shiva to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Malach said he had, Medrash is Mavayir, that each Malach gets a certain time that he gets to go and give Shira. And now's my chance. I've been waiting for this, and now's my chance. I got to go back. Yaakov Avinu held him, no, give me a bracha. Right? So the Tzanzidov, when a Yid asks a bracha, and you say, I can't give a Yid a bracha. I can't help out another Yid. I have to go and do my avodas Hashem. I have to go say Shira to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Das der Ish is the Malach HaMaves. Der Ish, he's a Satan. That Ish is a Satan. Welche Ish? But then you have another Ish. Yosef HaTzadik, Gavriel, because I'll say the most busy of all the Malachim. It's all more busy. He's such a busy Malach. He's going here and he's leaping here, the Gemara says, right? All of a sudden he finds, but there's a Yid, Yosef, findet sich nicht der Bruder. Where's my Bruder? Oh, Vayimtzeu Ish. That Ish, that's the Malach Gavriel. Verstehst? Das is the difference of vision when the Ish is a Malach and when the Ish is a Satan. And we know this is like in our history. This is something that our Rebbeim spoke about. Nishno the Tzanzer, the Rebbeim, the Litvisher Rebbeim also. It's a mice they say over B'Sol Salanter, everything was Yom Kippur, everything. B'Sol Salanter, we talk about Yom Kippur from the first day of Elul. That everything was that Nakud of Yom Kippur. But he had Rabbi B'Sol Salanter, he would be Matayr a certain Yid on Yom Kippur. He would come in, he would laugh to himself, Rabbi Yisrael. He read the whole Or Yisrael, Rabbi Yisrael's writings. He would read the whole Or Yisrael. And he comes to Yom Kippur, and he looks mamish as like a malach, and he's not eating like a malach, he's not thinking about food like a malach. Mamish like a malach. He looks like a malach. And then he comes in and he has to have his mokim kavua because kalvei mokim the tefillah, and he knocks over people, and he gets there and finally gets to his place and he's davening and tzokis mamish like Kallus the broken as if he a malach and nobody around him can daven, right? So the Salant we say a malach is a malach, but he's a malach of chavala, malach shel chavala. He is. I say in English, he's a destructive angel of destruction. He's the angel of destruction. Yeah, the angel of destruction. So this is like, biggest side by us. The biggest side in Yiddishkeit that a person, it can have, it can't be that his avodas Hashem is going to infringe on that of helping another Yid. It's not shaykh. And Ish is somebody that his avodas Hashem is to help out another Yid. It's not shaykh. Another Yid needs help. So then he's there to help the other Yid. And this is a biggest side in general in life, maybe specifically in marriage also, but in life for sure. In life, you have a lot of times that somebody else, his pain and his need is not valued by you. It's not valued by you. It's not important by you because it's not your issue. And sometimes, you don't realize somebody's sorrow and somebody's issue, somebody's problem is that's sometimes you have somebody who tells you, I do it in marriage because people like the marriage example. So it's like, it comes home and the wife had a hard day with the kids. You didn't have a hard day with the kids. Right? You had a hard day with other kids. Right? You had a hard day with the kids. So she tells you, difficult today with the kids and this and that, right? So you're a man, and was a man. What is he supposed to do and what does he do, right? Oy, I'm here for you. And this and that. But what does he do sometimes with kids? But that's what's hard because he knows that on Erev Shabbos for 15 minutes he watched the kids, and it was fine, right? He took them, he gave them lots of sugar, put them in the room, closed the door, and he had no issues. Like, why is she always complaining, right? So what does he start saying? He starts saying, there's people that don't have kids. It's like the most insensitive, terrible thing you can tell a person. You just took their pain. It's true. There are people and they suffer. It's true. True, right? But somebody comes home, he complains the other way. Well, let's get the girls in trouble. He comes home, he complains and says like, I had a hard day in work. I had a hard day in whatever. It's so hard. She says, not she. I know. Hopefully, you have a normal marriage, right? But you just, just be happy. I heard today somebody doesn't have a job. Thank you. Exactly what I wanted to hear. What did she just do? What did he just do? What did they just do? No validation. I just took your problem and I said, your problem is not a problem. Your problem's not a problem. That's the worst pain you can give a person. The worst pain you can give a person is when they have a pain and when they need help and they need something. As you say that's a problem. That's an issue. Oh, the bigger issue is no, right? Marriage, you have this the most because when you take two people that have to be together always, and they're coming from different backgrounds, so they're coming from different ways of thinking, and they're coming from different focuses in the day. They have different focuses, Pasha. So her focus is this, and his focus is this. So he's thinking that's what's important. Like I don't care what the dinner flopped. That's what I care about. That's what she cares about, right? And he had a hard day with this. That's what you get. That's what he cares about. And once you understand that, so then it's true. You don't value that thing, but that's not important. I'm not going to give you some Shalom Bayis shmooze now about how you have to value what's important. Whether you value or don't value it, but you can't undervalue it for her because that's her pain. When that's her pain and that's his pain and that's what so then you have to validate it. And that's what an ish is. That's what an ish is. So, that's what an ish is. So that's that. So I thought of this, I had like a scare, a scare of not a scare of Khalila, like a scare. This was a scare. So that's when I thought of this idea. I had, I came into the Kallus. It was one of the shir, part of my shir I spoke about. It wasn't here. Here I said in the beginning that I found out this week I don't have antibodies. I don't have, and I was riding on these antibodies. I want to play a thing in Torah over there. And one of my shirim I spoke about that I don't have antibodies self-day. Right? I was mamish for the last, I think, since my son got corona, I've been riding on these antibodies, and I was clear sailings on these antibodies. Right? And when I called up to find out, I called my doctor to find out do I have antibodies. I didn't say do I have antibodies. I say Vifil. How many antibodies? I just want to know how many. Right? 100,000. Or because I'll give other people also, so how many people, right? He says, oh, sorry, Abshragi, you don't have any. I was riding on these. It was a difficult day. And then it was part of my shir, right? Because also it is difficult for me because now it has to change a little bit of my Hagas Chayim, and until now it's one of my sveikas of having people around me and whatever. One of my sveikas is that maybe I had it or maybe this, maybe that, maybe I have antibiotics, So it was difficult for me. It was difficult. Sure. So I got a phone call yesterday from from a lady. It was a lady that clearly tried to email me, but didn't work out. I'm not so good with this email stuff. So I got a phone call from a lady. And now you have to know another thing going on in my life. I'm having phone trouble. Okay, it's been a hard week. Someone stole my mic, but it's been a hard week, so I'm having phone trouble. Okay, you know that I'm having phone trouble, right? So it's not. Don't think, Rabbi side, that if I just had enough of you, I just hang up the phone. My phone has had enough of you. Right? So this week I get a phone call, and there's a lady who had clearly just watched that shir where I complained about not having antibodies. And I don't have antibodies, and my difficult life that I don't have antibodies. So the lady gets on the phone and she said to me, Rabbi Kallus. Now, she also had somewhat of a voice which was a bit more authoritative. It was a little bit aggressive. So, a little bit aggressive. So, Rabbi Kallus, yes. I just listened to the shir you gave about antibodies, that you don't have antibodies. I go, okay, it's an interesting thing to pick up in this shir, but I just listened to the shir. I want to tell you something, that my husband, he was on an ECMO machine. You know what that is? That's what it's called. I said, right? ECMO machine. It's with, it's lo yaleinu v'lo yaleichem, right? My husband was on an ECMO machine. He had COVID in Pesach time, and he was on an ECMO machine. I'm thinking, I'm about to get yelled at. I am in so much trouble. Oh my goodness, I am in so much trouble. You know what I'm about to get? I'm about to get, and she's got this voice, right? Well, she's probably watching now, but she's got this voice, this like Rabbi Kallus, that type of voice, right? And oh my God, I'm about to be told, you're complaining you don't have antibodies. Thank God every day that you didn't get what I had to suffer with oh no, I'm in so much trouble. So then my phone hung up. Oh my goodness. I don't know if her husband's alive, if her husband's not, I don't know what's going on. I'm in so much trouble now. So I quickly try to get the phone to start up again, and right, it's a nightmare, right? And it's going on for 3-4 minutes until the phone decides, and then that number, because my phone exploded, that it has like a whole attitude problem. I don't know why I'm telling you all this, but the phone doesn't come back with the last number, right? Oh my goodness, I'm such a bad person, right? I'm such a bad, and she started out the conversation, Rabbi Kallus, I tried to email you. I'm looking through the email. Who tried to email me? He sent me a nasty one. You don't answer your email. So I'm looking at, so about 6 minutes later, she calls back. I get on the phone, I go, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She goes, what? Because the phone? Like she thought, because the phone. I go, no, with your husband. What? No, didn't know what I was talking about. She says, no, I want to tell you, here I am apologizing for my phone. I want to tell you that my husband, he was very sick with the ECMO machine. I'm not going to tell you, but the phone did it again. But anyways, a few minutes later, when she called back, my husband was on the ECMO machine. And you should know, those are very, very, very difficult times for me. And I felt the way that you felt. I felt the way that you felt, that you were saying you're nervous now. And it's like, now you realize that, I was riding, that's how I said it in the shia, I was riding on these antibodies, and I was being philosophic on these antibodies, I was being saimach on these antibodies, and I was nervous, I was nervous. So she said to me, you should know, I was feeling the same way. My husband was on the ECMO machine, I was riding on the machine, and they said the machine is not doing what it's supposed to do. So you know what I did? I started to learn Sha'ar B'tachin in Chayvus Levavis. They have an English one. Aren't you supposed to be yelling at me that I'm insensitive and this is what's important? Just be happy. You don't have antibodies, just be happy. You were never on an ECMO machine, tough guy, right? Just be happy. Instead, she's giving me a whole Chizuk explanation. No, you need Chizuk, right? I go, yes, ma'am, okay. I'm going to start learning Bli Neder, Sha'ar B'tachin. I was afraid she's going to ask me for a chavrusa, right? But I'm going to start learning Sha'ar B'tachin, right? But it says, Moiri Dika Maisa. Moiri Dika Maisa. That's an ish. That's an isha. But that's a ish. No, that's a ish. That's a ish. That's a ish. That's somebody who doesn't, looks, you're suffering. You have a problem. Your pain is not small. Not to belittle somebody else's pain. That's a ish. That's a ish. That's a ish. I get Shabbos, Rabbi said.